Hello, gorgeous people! You probably noticed that I'm not continuing with the video I started last month like I said I would. This is because after reviewing it further, I realized that there really wasn't enough of it that I still had an issue with without referring more to other works by that creator than to that specific video, which is kind of unfair. And I kind of got called out for doing exactly that on last month's video. No worry about that happening this month, though, because I've actually never heard of this guy until now.
It was a different time, man. You're banned for life.
Rude! You're probably thinking that's an awfully abrupt way to start a video, and I agree. However, in the original, the only thing before that was a musical intro similar to mine, except that it had a still image instead of a mediocre animation of a smoking hot wolf chick. As you can probably guess, I decided to leave it out for copyright reasons. I'm having enough trouble getting the license for my own intro music without getting flagged for using somebody else's.
Don't talk to me like that. It was a different time, man. Shut up.
Real bastion of reasonable discourse, this guy. After all, everyone knows that the best way to ensure that you have the most correct information is to ban anyone who disagrees with you.
Thank you, Walt Disney. Oh, I know. Meth Treehouse. I know, and that's why when I question, the shape of the earth and stuff like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's a flurf. The good news, however, is that that's not what this video is actually about.
People are like, you're science. Okay.
You mean that system by which we can explain virtually every provable fact we know, and the system that developed over 99% of the things we use every day, such as the computer you're creating your nonsense on and the internet you're using to spread it? By the way, thanks for providing a perfect thumbnail for this video.
You know how dinosaurs don't really exist?
What?
They never existed. They were invented by the Royal Society in 1841.
I think you're a little confused.
The word dinosaur was originally coined by this guy, Sir Richard Owen, by combining Greek words that meant fearfully great lizard, used in reference to their size. This was done at the request of the Royal Society, more precisely the Royal Society of London for Improving Natural Knowledge, in order to classify the remains of 3 prehistoric animals that they had near-complete fossilized skeletons of, namely Megalosaurus, Iguanodon, and Hylaeosaurus. And it was in 1842, not 1841.
Fact. No one had ever found any dinosaur bones, and they still haven't.
Didn't I just get done saying that the whole reason they came up with the word was because they had near-complete skeletons for 3 different animals? Also, emphatically saying the word fact does not automatically make everything else you say with it true. Allow me to demonstrate. Fact. Susie Wolf is the hottest, most popular furry in history with over 100 million subscribers on YouTube. See? Told ya.
All dinosaur bones are replicas made by chicken bones from China.
I'm afraid to even try to guess where you got that from, so I'm just going to say...
Wrong!
It's a true story. And you know why you can't use real dinosaur bones?
You mean besides all the ones that do, like the Field Museum in Chicago? If I were to hazard a guess, I'd say either it's because some of the fossils are literally irreplaceable and they don't want to risk the possibility of damage, or because setting up a full display and putting some of those very heavy fossils overhead runs the possibility of a public safety hazard. Then again, you wouldn't be getting featured on my channel if you were going to say something that made sense.
Because they claim that they're still radioactive because of the asteroid 66 million years ago.
Nope! Wrong again!
While it's true that some fossils are radioactive, it's not all of them by a long shot. And we can see here that it's more because of other radioactive minerals in the same area, and has nothing to do with the meteor, not asteroid, that wiped out the vast majority of them.
Okay? So now that you realize that dinosaurs are already an absurd farce.
Except that we know the exact opposite of that. Although I will grant that this video proves that you're an expert on absurd farces.
Absurd, guys. When you look into the the bone wars and how many of them have been proven false. There is not one single skeleton of a dinosaur that exists in the world. None. You can right now be like, oh, well, my uncle found them, but you're no. None.
Except for all the ones that do and are on display in places like the aforementioned Field Museum. Also, I'm kind of surprised you even brought up the Bone Wars, since the fact that it even happened kind of goes against your argument. For those of you not familiar with the term, the Bone Wars refers to a not-so-friendly rivalry in the late 1800s between these two guys, to see which of them could find the most dinosaur fossils. And while I will admit that both of them used some fairly unscrupulous tactics to try to stay ahead of the other, between the two of them, they did find a lot of legitimate specimens.
And the engineers have proven that none of the bodies would work. All the guts would fall out. Like a brontosaurus, stegosaurus, all those giant, and like a T-Rex would be incapable of doing anything. Like all their guts would fall out. That, like the weight versus, like all the engineering is off to the point where they couldn't walk. Everyone's proven this. There's no dinos. So,
oh, brother. Not you. Look, Dingus, we all know perfectly well that if that was even remotely true, you'd be plastering the evidence all over the internet instead of just saying it. And in the words of the great Christopher Hitchens, what is presented without evidence can be dismissed without evidence.
now that you know that there's no dinos and it's the most expensive comedy troupe in history, how funny is it that now dinosaur museums are making them
Starts with an F, rhymes with schmuck, you know, like him, and not allowed to be said on my channel.
in public? There's a museum in Spain that shows 2 T-Rex skeletons having sex. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they?
Allowing the very generous assumption that your picture isn't a Photoshop hoax, you do realize animals mate, right? Perhaps some Spanish scientist was taking a guess at the mating habits of T-Rexes, since they can't exactly observe them in a species that was extinct long before humans existed.
Atmosphere was different, says guy who just got banned for life.
Again, best way to ensure that you have the most accurate information is to ban everyone who disagrees with you.
Anybody that those arguments work on, you're all gone. You can't prove the Earth was here 66 million years ago. I'm not saying it was or wasn't, but there's no evidence of anything. None.
I really hate to break this to you, pal, but just because you're not smart enough to figure out how to prove or disprove something doesn't mean nobody is.
You can't carbon date fossils. They're stone. There's no actual living anything in them. You can't carbon. No one knows anything about timelines.
Remember that statement. It'll become important later.
This is all nonsense. It was invented by the Royal Society in 1841. You can look this up.
Repeating a falsehood multiple times doesn't make it any less false.
So why wouldn't you make them bang? If you've already done these, because the thing about wizards is they get bored.
That is not what I found.
T-Rex skeletons having sex. Oh yeah, this is in public museums. Why wouldn't you? Like if you've just committed these frauds and people buy it, you know, people are like, I know people that have degrees in which they're paying off debt to this day in paleontology. They have whole degrees in things that are lies.
After your behavior at the beginning of this video, if you find someone who actually believes that you interact with anybody who disagrees with you, like somebody who has a degree in paleontology most certainly would, please send that person my way. I've got a mountain chalet in Kansas I'm looking to sell.
You know, it's insane. Was there giant beasts that used to exist that don't exist? Yeah, I think there was dragons. I think that there was giants. I think that there was all kinds of shit, not dinosaurs.
Whoa, hold on a second. You think wizards, dragons, and giants are real, but dinosaurs aren't? Where on earth would you get a ridiculous idea like that anyway? Oh, yeah.
And their timeline was created just to push. Think about how valuable the dinosaur narrative was. It pushed evolution because it gave a giant timeline. So it allowed people to abandon free will and common sense when it came to genetic mutation.
So you're making the claim that part of the reason they came up with dinosaurs was to help support an idea that didn't come into being until nearly 20 years after the dinosaurs were invented. Now, what was it you said earlier that I told the audience would be important later?
No one knows anything about timelines. Like people would say, well, how can someone go from being a, bacteria to a human being? And they're like, time. And it's like, I mean, I can talk to my great grandparents and they're like, no, millions of years. Billions. Is billion a number?
The only common trait held by bacteria and the single-celled ancestors of virtually all multicellular life on Earth is the fact that they're both single-celled organisms. If you try learning about something you don't understand instead of automatically insisting it's wrong because you don't understand it, you'd have already known that.
And it also pushed the fossil fuel narrative. They said that the decomposing dinosaurs is what oil is.
Gee, what a surprise. He's wrong again. Although oil does come from prehistoric organic matter, it's primarily plankton and algae, not dinosaurs. He does go into one or two other things, like confusing meteors with asteroids, but frankly, I don't think my brain can take anymore. A couple things before I get out of here. First off, I want to apologize for the fact that my July video isn't going up until the beginning of August. I promise that your regularly scheduled August video will hit before the month is out. On a brighter note, since I forgot to share an art piece last month, here's 2 pieces to make up for it. I'll share the artist's Twitter handle down in the description. Until next time, stay safe, and as always, stay sane, everybody. Smoochies! If you like what I do, but want to see somebody do it way better, be sure to check out Sir Sick, the Social Inequality Crusader. Links in the description below. And tell him Susie sent you.